Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert back with the Ted Show, last show of this Friday, first Friday in October. Can't believe it. We are here last quarter of 2020. Get ready. Let's see what happens. I am truly honored and excited to have this young gentleman on the show, Keith Mason. Gosh, I don't even know where to start. Actor, producer, rugby player, franchisee owner. But there is so much more to Keith, and he has this incredibly inspirational story that I am very excited for him to share with all of you. So, welcome to the show, Keith Mason.
Thank you, Ted. It's such an honor to come on here and speak about, my journey, and hopefully it can impact people's lives. We've been on a bit of a roller coaster, me and my partner, and obviously you'll find out about my life story and where I came from and how I became the man I am.
And that's what we want to hear. I think that I know enough to be dangerous, but I haven't heard it necessarily from your own words. So let's start. Let's start with origin. Tell us a little bit about you and your background. That's my reminder for you. Tell us a little bit about your background and a little bit about your journey.
Yeah. Okay. Well, born in a town called Dewsbury, which is in West Yorkshire, which is northern England. It's about 4 hours north of London. And I was raised by my mum, Catherine Fallis, who was an absolute warrior. She raised 5 kids on her own, pretty much. There was no father figure around. And, when I was growing up, I was a young kid with a lot of energy. Always had talent for rugby, but, somewhere along the line, I was getting in a lot of trouble with the police and, being on the wrong side of the tracks, and luckily I turned my life around. But it took me a hell of a lot of mistakes and failure before I actually woke up and thought, you know what, this is not the life I want. So, my household was great. My mum was very loving. I didn't have that father figure around. And that's probably because I got into trouble a lot, is probably because I was looking for attention,
Sure.
Young men, boys need fathers. They need men to look up to. Even though you get the motherly love, I think a boy needs that discipline. And my mum, she did discipline me. She gave me some good items. I was a young kid. I was, loads of energy. But when I was in school, I couldn't stay in. I got kicked out probably 3 or 4 of my schools because I was so hyperactive. And, ultimately, rugby league saved my life. But it took me 45 court appearances and 60 arrests. Not people.
Wow.
Not a lot of people know about this. But the thing is, I wasn't a bad kid. I was just a kid in the wrong crowd. I was very impressionable. And, I was a bit of a follower, and a lot of my friends were 3 or 4 years older than me. So, they showed you love, they showed you, respect, and that's all you knew. But, to get out of that situation I was in, you probably couldn't write it, because the last time I went to court, with Crown Court, I was 14 years of age. And the guy who I got up to no good with was called Justin. And he got sent to jail and I got off. So I was very lucky that I didn't go to jail. And this was the last straw, basically. And when I walked out of court that day, I realized that I was very, very lucky. But I also realized that I needed to change my life. And my mum has been through a lot. She's had quite a few bad relationships. She was a single mum, as you guys know. And, I love my mum dearly, and I just didn't want to be a disappointment to her. One of my sisters became an addict. She was an addict for 10 years, and while I was playing professional rugby, I didn't know anything about it, because that's what type of mentality my family had. They wanted to protect me from the truth. And then I had a brother who was he's still an alcoholic. He's not a bad guy, but he has to have a drink every single day. So I grew up around people I didn't want to be like. I grew up and I saw drugs, and I saw, unfortunately, people friends passing away, you know, through crime and all that kind of stuff. And
it's very it's interesting because all this, as I'm hearing you, what I hear you saying is you knew that what you wanted and what you didn't want, but you were still, because you mentioned earlier, you were still searching for whatever that is, father figure, acceptance. You still went down some paths that you didn't, that you kind of knew weren't the best paths, but you went anyway. And I think that's what happens a lot to our youth. If you don't have that infrastructure, for, in your case, the dad, the father figure, it can be very trying going out there, especially as a young dude, and figuring out, crap, what am I going to do with my life, and how do I maneuver through this? And so I love the fact that you shared that you went through it, but you knew that some of the things that you were doing weren't where you wanted to be. What was it like waking up? Like, did you just have this wake up moment, Keith, and go, all right, I can't be this person anymore. I can't live this life anymore.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, the last time I went to Crown Court, the two guys who was with me, the crime we committed, they got sent to jail because they went not guilty. I went guilty. Now, I was probably 2 months shy of my 15th birthday. So I got a 2-year probation. I was very lucky. But rugby, I was always good. I was always talented at rugby, but I was never focused and disciplined because, you know, when you've got no father figure about and you're a kid, loads of energy. A lot of your friends live, you call them projects. We live on a council estate, you know, and we hang together, we chill out together. And I think I just went through a phase. I went through a phase of getting into trouble, you know, of rebelling. And then when I came out of court that day, it was like I had an epiphany. And it was like the Lord speaking to me saying, this is it. Your time is now to turn your life around. And it's so weird because I was 14 years of age. It's very profound. But from the very next day, I cut off all my friends who are up to no good. And I always say, you know, you show me your crowd and I'll show you your future. Well, my crowd was taking me down the wrong path. So I cut all my friends off.
What was that like for you at 14 to cut everyone off that had been part of your posse, part of your circle? What was that like for you at that age?
To be honest with you, it gave me power. It gave me belief in myself that this really means a lot to me. Now I want to be somebody. Yeah. Now it's strange because, you know, it just came to me. But when you've been arrested 60 times and you've gone to court 45 times, enough's enough. It's like I was self-destructing. It's like I'm going to end my life, you know, nobody else. But I'm going to also build myself up and be the man I want to be. And for me to do that, I had to make the sacrifices. And the sacrifice was the friends, stop smoking weed. The very next day, I started running. And every single day, you know, I said to my mum, look, Mum, I'm going to prove to you that I can do this. While everyone around me, where I grew up, you're not supposed to make it. Everyone around me didn't believe I'd go on and do the things I've done. But I believed. I had the faith in me. And thank God I stuck to it, man, because you know what? I used to run and run. I used to cough up blood, you know, and I carry on running because it meant so much to me. And any advice to any kids out there, you know, we've got one life. And if you've got a dream, it doesn't mean you're going to have to be an athlete or you're going to be an actor or whatever. But to live your best life, you need to make sacrifices. And, you know, my slogan in Rugby Blood is no sacrifice, no glory. And turning my life around at 14, put the foundations in place for the rest of my life. You know, I used to even train on Christmas Day. I get up 15-year-old Christmas Day. I go into the local cemetery, which it's kind of weird because, you know, it's full of dead people. But very therapeutic and peaceful. And I used to run up these big hills. And I do that for like 2 hours and then come home and eat my Christmas dinner. You know, just places like that, you know, and turning my life around. That following year, I went back to my old team, Dewsbury Moor, and we had a standout year. We won the league, we won the competition. Then I got selected for Yorkshire, which is the county, which over in America would be a state. So I played for Yorkshire, and we played Lancashire, which is the rivals to Yorkshire. And then I got selected for England schoolboys. So nearly going to jail 12 months before, now playing for my country. Then from the England schoolboys, we flew to France. We played France. We beat them 56-6. I came back, and all the players who was in that squad had signed professional contracts with all these Super League teams. So Super League is the biggest competition in England. It's the premier competition, a bit like the NFL and the NBA. But I hadn't signed a contract. No one had signed me. So I went to Bradford Bulls, which is a really big club in England, and I trialed there for about 2 months. I was 16. They eventually turned around to me and said, look, we're not going to sign you, Keith. We will continue to pay your bus fare. I used to get 6 buses 2 times a week to go train there. So I had to take it on the chin and go, you know what? They're not going to sign me, which was a bitter blow. Any kid who gets a knockback generally gives in. But I didn't. So then Castleford came in, another team came in. I trialed there for 2 months. I was still 16. They turned around and said, Keith, we don't think you're up to it. Now, I was gutted. That's 2 knockbacks.
What was it, do you think, that they were not seeing in you? You were obviously committed. Why was it that they were not understanding your passion?
Well, if I had the answer for that, I'd tell you. But the thing is, with me, it's like I knew where I come from, and I definitely wasn't going back to that place.
Yeah.
Oh, I had to keep going, and sometimes you knock on a door, it doesn't open. That's fine. Got to keep going. And that's my philosophy in life. Fail yourself forward. Just keep moving forward no matter what. And you'll get stronger. But a lot of people give in. And in society nowadays, people take it to heart. They take it to heart. Where I used it as a motivation to be better. Because when someone points out that, look, you're not quite ready, if you take that constructive criticism and use it and go, you know what? Okay, I'm not being the best I can be. What can I change? What can I tweak?
Right.
Obviously, my talent got me through in the end, and my drive and my never giving up attitude. The third club I went to was Leeds Rhinos. Now, Leeds was a big club. I had a pre-season there. I was just turning 17. I was there for about 4 months. The coach, who was a legendary coach, he played for New Zealand. He played for Wigan. He was the captain, a guy called Dean Bell. Pulled me to one side. He says, listen, Keith, I'm sorry to tell you this, but we're not going to sign you. And I don't think you're ever going to be a Super League player. That was his word. So, yeah, it was pretty bleak. When he told me that, I was, enough's enough, Third time, I went home. I said to my mom, Mom, I'm gonna quit. Now think about this. I used to get about 16 buses. I go from Dewsbury to Leeds, from Dewsbury to from my house to Dewsbury, from Dewsbury to Leeds, from Leeds to middle of Leeds, then to Leeds to Headingley, and then back. And I do that 3 times a week. And then to say that I'm never going to play Super League. So I went away. I had to make a decision. What else am I going to do? Because I can't work 9 to 5. I'm not a guy, no offense, people work 9 to 5, but I'm not that type of guy who's an hands-on guy. I'm an athlete, I'm an athlete, and I have to have that outlet. And I knew I was good enough. It's just, was someone going to give me a chance? So someone came up to me and said, listen, kid, just give it one last go. And Wakefield, luckily, came in for me. Wakefield Trinity came in for me. And I had a trial game. And the trial game wasn't the best. And I remember John Arbin, who was the coach, said to the first team coach, he says, listen, this kid's got it, man. Just stick with him. So they came to me and they offered me my first contract.
Fantastic. I love that.
£5,000 for the year. And this when I signed for them, it was like I've been knocking on doors, and no one's opening the doors. When I signed for them, it's like I kicked 7 doors down all at one time. I was just like an animal. I was so hungry. So because it took me so long to get there and all them knockbacks, when I got it, it's like it meant everything to me. And within the space of 3 months of signing for Wakefield, not only did I make my Super League debut at 17, but 12 months later, I signed for Melbourne Storm in Australia, which made me the youngest player in history from England to go to Australia for the best team in the world.
It's amazing.
Couldn't write it, right?
And so what are you feeling at this point? I mean, what I want people to know is that you didn't give up. You thought about it, though, and I love that you shared that part, because I think all of us that go through trials and tribulations, it's okay to go, what am I doing and why am I continuing this? Or to even feel defeated a little bit, like, what am I going to do? But you persevered through it. So you get this, you get to play in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And what are you feeling at that point? You must have been like, okay, to heck with all of you naysayers, I did it.
Yeah. You know, it's so crazy because when that guy said I'd never played Super League, I was playing Super League literally 8 months after. I was playing first team football. I was playing with men. I was 18 years old. I was so fit. I outworked everybody. And I was just hungry, man. You know, and any advice out there, if you want to be great at something, you have to be obsessed. And I was obsessed to be the best. And I think that shaped me. You know, me, if I'd have listened to Dean Bell, we wouldn't have been sat here now.
Right.
If I'd have listened to him and his advice, I wouldn't have been sat here now. Now I know kids all over the world hear this every single day. You're not good enough. You're not going to make it. Well, you know what? You will. If you have the faith and you have the courage and you have the perseverance and you have that obsessive mentality that you want to be the best you can be. And that has stuck with me. When I went, this is so funny because when Melbourne came in to sign me at 19 and they paid a big fee for me, right? Leeds Rhinos, the team that said I'd never played Super League, they came back in, ironically. A 4-year deal, a first contract with the first team on big money. You know what I said? No, thank you. You had a chance.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know why? Because it's not a screw you. It's okay, you didn't believe in me then. I've already made this. I've done all of the work. It's not their place to benefit from that, all of that work that you did. I think it's such a great thing. I think people, you said it earlier, and I want to point it out again. If you're listening to this and somebody is in your ear telling you you can't, just like Keith, I want you to get it out of your head. Don't let them in there to take over, because that's what happens to a lot of people that are trying to follow their dreams. They have the passion, and then somebody comes in, some naysayer comes in and literally changes the way that they think about themselves. And what Keith is saying and what I'm encouraging you to do is to not allow that to happen.
Yeah.
No. So what happens with rugby? Obviously, rugby's not as big in the States, but I'm familiar enough with it. And you go on to this amazing career and a franchise owner now. We've got a whole stop of acting and producing in there, but I want people to kind of understand you're still in rugby. It's still part of your life.
Yeah, so when I retired at 31, I was quite young. And I played at Wembley in a cup final for Huddersfield Giants. We played Warrington. There was about 90,000 people there. It was an amazing day because, I'd watched finals as a young kid. A Wembley final is equivalent to an NFL Super Bowl final. And, to go out there. Unfortunately, we lost. And fate happened that I got invited to Stringfellas, which is a bar in London. A few of the players after we played. And I remember, this was back in 2009, Mickey Rourke walks into the bar and he walks past me. And I says to my friend, that's Mickey Rourke, man. He's a film star, He goes, "Ooh." I goes, "Never mind." So I said to my bodyguard, can I say hello to Mickey? He goes, "Hey, yeah, sure." Now, this was the year Mickey Rourke came back. He got the Man of the Year GQ Awards, and he got the BAFTA for The Wrestler.
Yes.
So it's so weird because I was watching The Wrestler only 2 months before I met him at home, and I thought, wow, this is a great film. Never thought in a million years I'd bump into a movie star, and eventually became friends with him. So I went over to him. I says, "Hi, Mickey, how you doing? I really loved your film, The Wrestler." And I says, "Is that film a bit like your life? You had everything and lost it all." He goes, "Yeah, pretty much, kid." He goes, "What are you, man? Are you a gangster? Are you an athlete?" I says, "No." When you play in a final, you wear suits. You all wear the same suits. We had a grey suit, black shirt, black tie. And I was looking down at him, and I said, No, Mickey, I played in a final today, and I play rugby." He went, "I love rugby, man." He said, "In fact, I've been watching rugby today in my hotel room at Wembley." He goes, "Yeah, that was me." So we got talking. He bought me a drink. And then he said to me, "Listen, do you want to take my number?" And I was like, "Take your number?" He goes, yeah, sure. He goes, "Listen, where are you going to be in 2 weeks?" I went, "Playing rugby, probably." "Why?" He goes, "Well, I'm going to the GQ Awards, because he was up for the Man of the Year, and I'd like you to be my guest." Really?
Wow.
So I took his number. We went from there. We went to another bar. He started arm wrestling a few of the players. Now, this was in the papers, by the way. It was in the nationwide press that Mickey Rourke was arm wrestling with rugby players. And he arm wrestled my friend, and he whooped him. And then he arm wrestled another guy who was 250 pounds, 6'4", and basically the kid snapped Mickey's bicep off the bone while he was wrestling.
Oh my God!
But I didn't realize, and I said, "Hey, Mickey, can I have a go? Give me a go, Mickey." And he's like, "Oh, nah, kid, my bicep, it's something's wrong." He obviously didn't know what had done to it, but he snapped it. And then in the same night, he was stood in front of me, and I was speaking to his bodyguard, Derek. And Mickey were looking at me, and he started crying. And I said to his bodyguard, "What's up with Mickey?" And he says, "No, it's okay, Keith. He just said that you remind him of his brother, Joe." Now, Joe is, his best friend, and God bless his soul, is in heaven now. And I goes, "Wow, it just a very profound moment." And the guy took a liking to me. Mickey took a liking to me, and he invited me to the GQ Awards 2 weeks later. I went down to the GQ, met up with Mickey. The Jackson Fives were there, Guy Ritchie, Eva Mendes, Jason Statham. So then there was me, Jason Statham, and Mickey together all night, having a good time. And you just couldn't write it. And then a couple of weeks after that, Mickey flew me over to New York. I stayed at his house in Greenwich Village, and then we just became friends. Every time he came to England, I go to London, and we go for dinners, and we go to TV shows together, and then eventually we did a film together. I played his.
Is that where you got? That's where you got the acting bug? Is that where you got the? That's where you got the. Oh my God, I can do this. I like this.
Yeah, that's it. Mickey opened the door.
And so tell me what you, because we've got questions. People are asking. On all the different platforms. Some you can see, some you can't. They are fascinated by your more recent story. Obviously, they're fascinated by you, but they are fascinated by the inspirational story of your partner and helping her walk again. You've got a book coming out. You are incredibly transparent and authentic on social media about the journey. It is what caught my eye, and I think it's caught a lot of people's eye. So tell us a little bit about that, what you feel like you could share about that.
Yeah, so Brianna reached out to me about around 4.5 years ago, and I just recently retired from rugby, and I'd done my qualifications to be a personal trainer. So, I was filling a bit of time up while I was retired. I enjoy training and I enjoy helping people. And so she reached out to me, and she said that, she had a problem with her legs, but she didn't mention she was paralyzed. So I said, "Sure. Yeah. Come and see me." So she she traveled the distance to come and see me. She pulled up in the car, and I was stood at the door, and she rocked up, and then she opened the door of the car, and it was like a Q7 Audi, like a four-wheeler, and she jumped out of the car, and she had these crutches. So yeah, she had these crutches, like, and I says, are you sure you're okay to train? She goes, yeah, I'm fine, yeah. Because what's up with your legs? She goes, well, sorry, I didn't really tell you, but I'm paralyzed. I had a spinal stroke. I went, right, okay. So the fact that she turned up, to train was, that was admirable. So I just, me being an optimist, I says, let's go inside and let's see what we can do. So we went inside. She was telling me about, she had a spinal stroke, and she was a mum of 4, and she was a school teacher, and she was active, and all these things. And I kind of felt sorry for her because, for her to have a spinal stroke and then wake up in a hospital and be told that you're never going to walk again, you just can't imagine it. And it really struck a chord with me. And our journey started there, and we eventually, did her first squat. So basically, she was holding on to me, and she squatted down and came back up, and she just burst out crying.
I'm going to cry thinking about it, because people don't understand that is a giant deal. Because what you're doing is you're going against the odds. Probably what she was told, like you mentioned earlier, that she wouldn't walk again, and yet she's doing some things that probably defied the odds.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because me and Rihanna are very similar in a lot of ways, like proving people wrong for the starters. Overcome the impossible. I mean, what's the odds of me having the life I've had when I've just told you about all the things I did as a kid?
Right.
And what's the odds of Rihanna walking? So we are a match made in heaven. But when we first met, it wasn't like love at first sight. I was training her. She was split up, but she was still married. And obviously she had a lot of complications with the family and stuff, and she went through a really, really tough time. And I just wanted to help her. And I could see the fight in her, and I just love to see somebody who's broken but rises up. That's the best stories, and I think that's why people all over the world now are really inspired by our story.
You just post, you share these milestones, and I think that people want to know. Well, we had a lot of questions before we went live. People are like, what did you do different? Was it her diet? Is it her the type of exercises she does? Obviously, a lot of it has to do with personality and perseverance, like you mentioned earlier. But I think people are looking for, wow, how did they accomplish that?
Well, I think everything you mentioned there about perseverance and never giving up, and you need to have all them qualities. You need to have the courage to want to overcome, because a lot of people in Rihanna's situation probably, and I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back here, but not everybody has a Keith Mason walking into their life.
Agreed.
And I think Rihanna would tell you that. I think just the love and the unconditional love and support and the perseverance and me never giving up on her. Obviously, we eventually became an item, but since then she's had another spinal stroke, Ted.
I didn't know that.
2 years ago, she had a spinal stroke, a second spinal stroke, and then I nearly lost her. It was one day before New Year's Eve. I was in here with the kids watching TV, and one of the kids ran in and said, "Oh, mummy can't stand up straight." So I'd run into the other bedroom, and she was like hunched over like this. And I said, "Baby, stand up, stand up." And she couldn't stand up. And I knew, I had a sinking feeling that something was wrong. So I grabbed hold of her, and I was trying to get her out of the bedroom because the bed was really close to the door, so it was jamming up the gap. And so when I grabbed her, her right leg went limp.
Oh.
And I saw that. It's just like, I had this thinking feeling that, you know, obviously something wasn't right, and I've never seen anybody have a stroke. Now, she starts having this, she's all the right side of her face is sloping down. And I couldn't do anything about it. You know, all I could do, I picked her up and I brought her into the bedroom, and I laid her on the bed, and she wanted to go to sleep. You know, she would just disintegrate, and she was pretty much dying. You know, I ran the ambulance. The ambulance took about an hour to get here.
Wow.
And I was praying, and I was crying my eyes out. You know, I was praying to the Lord, like, please don't take her, you know, because it was out of my control. And I was angry because the ambulance took so long to get here. And I was praying to her, baby, please, 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 you know, please don't go. And the ambulance eventually got here, you know, and she was in a state, she was in a mess. The ambulance came upstairs, the nurses, and put her on a bed on a Guernsey, and we got in back of the ambulance, and everything just happened all at once. You know, the emotions were high, but I was staying strong for her. You know, I had to stay strong because the kids, you know, it's 4, 5, 6 kids we've got. You know, if I panic, then they're going to start panicking. So I got into the ambulance, and for some reason, she had this horrendous pain going down her spine, and she was howling. I mean, you've never seen anybody scream as loud. And she screamed that loud. And even though she was going through all this ordeal, which was heartbreaking, she screamed that loud, she passed out, you know, and I just had tears coming down my face because I thought, oh my God, you know, I can't believe what's happening. So we got to the hospital. We got her on a bed. I mean, she was on this bed for 5 hours. But she couldn't lay on her back because she was in excruciating pain, and we had to start all over again. All the gains we've made were gone. Not only she come back from a spinal stroke, now she's come back from 2 spinal strokes, and you know, this one for me was, this is not going to defeat us. My attitude to Riona was, baby, we're going to get out of this, and we're going to have the best year of his lives. Believe me. And we was in hospital for 3.5 weeks. From New Year's Day, I had to stay in hospital on New Year's Day. I remember the hospital saying, you're going to have to leave. And I says, listen, I ain't leaving my girl. My girl here on New Year's Eve. And we spent New Year's Eve together in the hospital bed. And you know, I would just, like I said, she brought the best out of me. And I thought, you know what, she's been there for me, I'm going to be there for her again. And I made sure the kids.
How was she there for you?
Well, when we first met, you know, I was struggling. You know, I was in a dark place, man. You know, I was still trying to find my feet to life. But you got to think about, I played sport from 6 years old. And I retired at 31. Now, I retired early. I was in my prime. But at the time, I'd been through a massive court case, which I eventually won. I wasn't seeing my children. I had a really bad car accident. And, you know, I wasn't in the best of places, man. It was the transition from being a sportsman to what I'm doing now was very difficult. But you know what? I wouldn't change it, because I believe that sometimes you have to go through darkness to appreciate the light. And, you know, I pretty much lost everything, but I built myself back up. And I built myself back up, and I found a woman who helped me, and I helped her. We helped each other. We pulled each other out of the darkness and into the light. And you know what? Look what we're doing now, bro. You know, we're on the world stage, inspiring. But for 5 years, me and my girl, you know, we've overcome so much. And you see us smiling, and you see us getting after it, and you see us so positive, because we've seen the darkness. We've been there. Yes. We've been there for a long, long time. And we're on a ride now. We're enjoying it.
Your video, your posts, what you share about what's going on in your life, it it's so motivating and inspirational. Before we went live, I had so many people. Once I tagged you, obviously, then they go look. That's the whole point of the tagging. And they're like, oh my God, have you seen the videos, Ted? Have you seen what Keith posts? I'm like, yes, of course. That's why I'm so excited to have you on the show, because there are so many people going through. It doesn't have to be a physical paralysis. There can be a mental, soulful, spiritual paralysis that you're going through, and you all have figured out how you can best get out of it and still stay positive. It doesn't mean that you don't have bad days. It just means that you're going to continue at the end of the day to push through. And that's what I love about your story. And I love that you have written or you're going to launch a book, correct?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we've just done the deal with a guy called Walker. Wellfinity is a company. Yeah, I'm gonna plug the song, baby. My missus is in bed behind. The song. So we've actually signed a 2-book deal. So the first book is a memoir. So basically, it's from when me and Riona met, and now we've overcome everything we've overcome, and now we've inspired people. So the book is going to be a very inspiring book, and I think a lot of people all over the world would want to read it. And it's going to be one of those books where people can pick it up anytime and go, you know what, I'm having a bad day. I'm going to pick Keith and Riona's book up and have a read of that. We've also doing a self-help book, a self-care book, and how I have helped Riona through the process of her having an injury. So this book could go out to people who have disabilities, who have, in paralysis, or have a partner who's in a wheelchair and you're unable-bodied. But ultimately, I think our story is about, overcoming and never giving up, and it's a universal story. And people seem to think that it's a love story, and we're getting offers now to make a film.
Good.
And also we've got a music video, a song which has been dedicated to me and Riona, and it's called Hearts on Fire, and that's coming out in the next 2 weeks, and that will be on iTunes, TikTok, and the nationwide news are going to be covering the song. And it's dedicated to me and Riona, and actually Riona is singing a melody in the song, and I do the intro. And the actual intro is when I was praying for the Lord not to take her. And
wow,
it's incredible, man. The love and support we're getting now, we're truly grateful. And
you all are loving, but you can tell that you're and I've gone way over time, but I don't care, because I just love this. You all, that love, you can feel, it's palpable, even if you're watching it on the screen. And the thing that I found fascinating, and a lot of people commented about this as well, is, you look at your picture, you look at your life prior to this, and you think, oh my God, this guy is a tough, he's a dude. There's not going to be any emoting there. There's not going to be any sharing, He-Man kind of stuff. And yet you use the best parts of that, along with your God-given sensitivity and compassion, to accomplish the things that you all have accomplished. And that love you can feel. You can absolutely feel. I think it's just amazing. And hi, Riona, how are you? How you doing? Thank you for letting him come on the show, and thank you for allowing the rest of the world to share in your journey. I want people to be motivated and inspired that haven't seen it, because I really do believe from my heart that you guys are going to save lives and transform lives by what you're sharing. So how do people reach you? How do people reach out? How do they get to you? What's the best way?
Okay, we've got TikTok. We have a big following on TikTok. Got a lot of our videos up there of us progressing, and obviously we have a lot of fun. So you can find me on there on Keith Luke Mason and Riona Kelly. Find me on Instagram, Keith Mason _official, Riona Kelly _official. And we're also on Facebook. That's Keith Mason. So
I got you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. It's later over where you're at, and I really appreciate you taking the risk all the time, both of you taking the risk all the time to share what you're going through. I just want to encourage you to continue to do that, because it is moving and motivating and inspiring people. And just big kudos, big heart, lots of love for both of you. I think what you're doing is awesome, and I can't wait to see all of the upcoming projects.
Well, we could probably, thank you, brother, but we can probably do another show in probably 6 months' time, because there'll be so much that's gone on. But you know, the reason why we put videos out there is because we are helping people, and we're very privileged and honored to be able to impact people's lives, because the amount of messages we receive, people telling us that we've saved their life.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, it's, you know, I did play rugby and I was a big tough guy, and I was very physical, but you know, for me it's all about family. In fact, I'm going out straight to do my film after the I'm off the film set to finish my film Imperative.
Found the woman that tamed him.
Yeah, my partner says I found the woman that tamed me. Yeah.
I love it. Well, God bless you both. Tons of love for both of you. Thank you so much. You guys follow Keith and Rhiannon everywhere that you possibly can. You will be motivated and inspired and moved to tears, just like I was. So thank you guys for sharing your story with the world. I'm here anytime. I'd love to have you guys back on, but I want people to follow you. I want them to get out and see that nothing is impossible. And no sacrifice, no glory, never give up is definitely the way to live. So God bless you both.
Thank you, brother. Can I just say, me and Riona, in 3 weeks' time, we're going to be walking 100 mile. We're raising money for the Stroke Association, motor neuron disease, and obviously for Riona. It's going to be as big as feet, and she's going to be in a wheelchair. We're doing 10 miles a day over 10 days, which is equivalent to 4 marathons. And Nationwide TV will be documenting it, so you'll be able to see it, guys.
And join in.
And you can join in.
Fantastic. So when you share the show later, Keith, make sure
Yeah.
you put any of those links in there that we need to have. We'd all love to support you guys in anything that you're doing.
Awesome. I will, man.
All right. Love you both. God bless you both. Fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for sharing your story with the world.
It's a pleasure, Ted. You take care. Stay safe.
Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
You too, buddy.